kill my sons. Sleep in their beds. Turn my father against me. My daughter.
I have no idea what's happening.
If you haven't been living under a rock in the past 2 months, the gaming world has gone into an uproar about the new God of War game announcement. This new installment will be focusing on LaFay as the main character, while you face different pantheons in the afterlife of the gods. Now, as cool as that sounds to me, clearly some of the fans are disgruntled that Faye, the woman who has been sold to us as a fierce warrior who went toe-to-toe with Thor, is out of nowhere getting this title game for insert whatever under-deserved reasons. Man, you know why they tripping, bro. The neckbeards want some titty mechanics so they can have something to goon to, and Shia don't fit the script.
Big bro, you don't have to be so crude. But you may have a point with this one because some people are saying this is woke propaganda just because she looks like a mom.
Which she is a mom and has always been presented to us as one, but I digress. The controversy over this game is not the reason why I'm making this video. The reason why I'm making the video is because when God of War LaFay was announced, it brought me back to the last 2 games of the series. The introduction of the Norse gods in God of War 2018 was different from how I felt about the Greek ones. The Greek gods felt larger than life with unlimited godly power, but the Norse ones felt more down to earth. More relatable. They didn't seem like pompous rich people, but more like rugged warriors. These gods had fears, loved ones, and even though they had their issues, and plenty of them, they felt more communal. Because of this, it made it easier for me to have some level of sympathy with the majority of the Norse gods and mythical creatures. From Freya's desire to keep her son alive, even if it requires her to curse him, to Baldur hating his mother because he has been driven to insanity due to his curse, and even Thor trying to quit drinking to please his wife and child. These examples made characters more complex and made you sympathize with the gods of this pantheon more than the sociopathic Greek ones, which brings me to the 2 gods in the game that I fixated on the most, Magni and Modi.
Bro, you know they barely in the game, right?
Yeah, I know, but still, even though they're tertiary antagonists, the lore that were given, although small, still intrigued me. Them being the sons of Thor is honestly enough to make you want to know more about them, but the thing that got me was the dynamic between them and the rest of their family. Like I said before, the Norse gods are more communal, which makes their dynamics between them more akin to something you'll experience in your own mortal lives. But their sibling dynamic is not only between them, but also with their much younger sister by a few hundred years or so, Thrud. Thrud has her own trials and tribulations with her position in the family. She is the only daughter of a recovering alcoholic father, has an overbearing mother that doesn't want her to be a warrior, and 2 brothers that have recently been killed. Yeah. It's a lot for a teenager to deal with. Frankly, I wish there was more focus on these characters, but even so, the bit of information the game has given is still enough to reveal how each sibling is viewed by their family members and how their connections drive the motives of each member. So, for those who don't know who I am, I'm Arrow, and this is my space. So take a seat and relax as we analyze the complicated relationship between Thor's children and how their upbringing forms the building blocks of their personalities.
Hey, if you haven't played the games, then this your warning. Spoilers will be happening. So if you ain't trying to hear none of it, hop off and go ahead to one of our other videos we have.
Thank you, big bro. So to start it off, we have to look into the childhood of each character because, as most psychologists would tell you, a lot of the foundation of who we are is developed in childhood.
Are we about to get a little Freudian in here today, Errol?
Maybe not that deep.
Hey, bro, their childhood still sound all cool, but how we gonna talk about their childhood? Well, there ain't much to talk about. Like I said before, they barely in the game.
True, but still, there are little nuggets of information given to us about their upbringing and how they were viewed as children. We can start this with Magni and Modi since they are the first of his children that we see. Judging by information given to us by Sif in the game, it was shared to us that as little children they used to play with wooden carving toys until they would fall asleep in both Thor and Sif's laps. By this story, it seems when they were small children, they might have had a more peaceful early childhood, or these were just some of the moments of peace in their childhood. I say this because you also hear other accounts of their childhood from other characters such as Mimir. Mimir speaks of their childhood being quite traumatizing. Mimir states that Thor and Sif were alcoholic, abusive parents that would punish them severely if they did not perform in the manner they saw fit, which is confirmed when Modi was beaten to a bloody pulp by his father after he was deemed a coward for not dying in battle with his brother after Magni was defeated. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Back to the childhood. Being abused like this as discipline by your parents will only produce negative behaviors. Children who are abused often are more aggressive, believing that punitive punishment is the preferred way to handle conflict. They also tend to develop low self-esteem and have difficulty regulating emotions. You see a lot of this with Modi especially. Modi is always trying to be seen and seems to be compensating for not living up to his father's standards. He, out of the two, seems a bit more mentally unstable, saying inappropriate comments, especially about a particular boy.
But I'm gonna get to know you really well. You're gonna be my new brother.
Yeah, Buddy got some allegations that might have his hard drive checked.
Buddy not trying to go to Valhalla. He trying to go to Epstein Island. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Thor's son is out tonight.
Yeah, hi everybody, because Buddy is a certified predator. But I digress. Modi shows a lot of the traits of someone who was abused as a child. But with Magni, it isn't as noticeable. Magni, unlike his brother, is confident, or rather arrogant would be the appropriate term. Magni doesn't seem as desperate for his father's approval like Modi is, but one thing he does show as a sign of childhood abuse is hyper-aggression with a bloodlust for battle. When Magni finally confronts Kratos and Atreus, we see Magni displaying his lust for blood by snapping the neck of an ogre. Magni comes off as this fierce badass warrior who likes a challenge, opposed to Modi who showed up looking for an easier fight. One could say the more cowardly fight by choosing an 11-year-old Atreus. This cutscene is brief, but tells us a lot about each character without doing too much. But why this difference? Why is Modi displaying more of the signs of childhood abuse than Magni? Well, the short and simple answer is Magni's the favorite. Magni, unlike Modi, is seen in not only his father's eyes, but also the other Aesir gods as the golden child. This is highlighted in a story told by Mimir when a drunk Thor defeated a giant. And when the giant lifeless body fell, it landed on Thor, causing him to be stuck under the body. No other Aesir present at the time could lift the giant except for Magni and Modi. Even though Modi helped with moving the giant off his father, Magni was the one to get all the credit because he was the attractive blonde, which being blonde is coveted in white beauty standards. Now, I know clearly I'm not white, but I lived in majority white areas, and the amount of people that I would know that dyed their hair blonde and swore that that was their natural hair color, come on, look at me. Stop it. It's not. The way being blonde is seen as the beauty standard is so ingrained that a girl from the past season of Love Island was shook that someone would choose anything else but a blonde.
Do you know, I've never actually been with a blonde girl before.
You're joking.
Genuinely.
You're joking.
Most girls I've been with have been like darker features, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like long black hair?
Yeah, like just dark, yeah, like dark typical features.
Oh, okay.
So much fuss about the melanin in the hair. Simply ludicrous.
Well, crazy as it may be, Professor, this reverence for blonde hair is part of the reason why he gets better treatment than his brother. Another big reason I feel he gets treated better, specifically from his father, is the fact that Modi damn near looks identical to Thor. Besides the gigantic size that Thor and Magni share, Modi and Thor could damn near be twins. Now, most people would think that the son that looks like the most like the father would be treated the best, which may be true if the father thought highly of himself, but in Thor's case, he hates himself. Throughout Ragnarok, you see beneath Thor's warrior thirst for blood persona is a man that's a self-loathing drunk who is committing horrors across the land due to not addressing his own daddy issues. This self-hate seems to be projected towards the son that looks the most like him, giving room to infer how Modi was treated in comparison to his brother. Modi lacks self-esteem and has an inferiority complex, making it safe to say that Thor targeted Modi more with his abuse than he ever did with Magni. But Even though the abuse was worse for Modi than Magni, Magni was still the one to meet his end first. That is because while one brother was losing self-esteem, the other was getting too much to the point he became conceited. When everyone treats you as special and the chosen golden child to carry the mantle, it can do something to you if left unchecked. It can create a godlike complex. I know, they're gods, but y'all get my point. Magni thought his piss was gold and believed he can take out any challenger because he is the chosen one. And why wouldn't he feel this way? Even if he didn't defeat an opponent all on his own and was assisted by his brother, he would still get all the credit because he was the golden child. This will lead to an inflated ego of his own abilities, leading him to his destined demise. When Magni and Modi both fought Kratos, their childhood upbringing is placed on full display. Magni, full of himself from his golden child treatment, believes that he could actually take on a god that destroyed a whole pantheon that's even more powerful than their own. Is literally the epitome of hubris. This arrogance that was fostered by the people around him would cause Magni to bite off more than he can chew, leading to a whole axe seeking through his teeth. Yeah, but he ain't gonna be in the next game. On the other side of the Thunder Twins, Modi, after years of being put down as a failure by his family, shows no backbone, running away scared for his life after his brother is killed. But why would he ever have a backbone when he could never develop one under the conditions of physical and emotional abuse that he was subjected to in childhood? Matter of fact, even at his end, he still experienced all the same abuse. As I mentioned earlier, once Modi came back to Asgard, he was beaten to near death by Thor for fleeing from his fight after his brother's defeat. Modi was found by Kratos and Atreus barely standing, whimpering on about how he was blamed for the golden child being killed and was branded a coward. Modi was also bloodied to a pulp because he was beaten so badly by his father he couldn't even defend himself against being killed by an 11-year-old Atreus. Even though Modi brought his death upon himself by taunting Atreus about his mother, I honestly believe he did that on purpose so he could be killed. At this point, he has nothing to live for. He will never be recognized by his father, and even worse, he was beaten to near death by him. Everything he wanted will never happen. So to him, death would probably be more fitting.
Damn, that shit kinda sad. They had no chance.
Yep. Unfortunately, a cycle of abuse caused more tragedy.
Tragic is exactly what this is. But this tragedy might have stopped this cycle of abuse. Due to the tragic deaths of Magni and especially Modi, this severely impacted Thor and his wife Sif. They would make a major change in their lives to stop drinking, since he beat the brakes out of his son in a drunken rage, and do everything they can to be better parents to their last surviving child, Thrud. Thrud is a teen about the same age as the other series protagonist, Atreus, and is a lot different from her siblings. She doesn't seem bloodthirsty like her brothers and is actually pretty chill. She also condemns a lot of the cruelty her family enacts on the realms, displaying a greater moral compass than her family. She believes that a god should be protecting the innocent, which is why she wants to become a Valkyrie. Thrud is actually a decent god, which is very rare in this series, which we all know.
Everything you have ever known, Kratos, will now suffer because of your sacrilege.
But why the big difference, you may ask, in Thrud's behavior than her brothers? Well, it's simple. She was actually raised by nurturing parents. And yes, it's the same parents as Magni and Modi. You see, even though we don't get any visuals or much information on how the dynamics of Thrud and her two brothers were, we do, however, know a lot of how their deaths and parental failings by Thor and Sif impacted how Thrud was raised. Thrud is hundreds of years younger than Magni and Modi, so they were raised by younger and drunker Sif and Thor. But by the time they had Thrud, they had matured a bit and were not cruel and abusive like they were with their boys. Also, Thrud is a girl, so her expectation of being a bloodthirsty warrior was not there like the boys. Don't get me wrong, the women of the Aesir was still encouraged to be warriors, but because she was a girl, she could have other options. Plus, due to her parents changing to be more nurturing after her brother's deaths, she got to experience a better version of her parents that wasn't abusive drunks, but loving people. something that Magni and Modi never got. Thrud is the benefactor of the parental experiment of Magni and Modi, which, due to some hints, I feel like she was punished by her brothers for it, and really Modi to be exact. When Atreus is confronted by Thrud, we see how Thrud feels about the death of her brothers, or at least more so Modi.
We're better off without him, Loki. Trust me.
Damn, better without him is crazy.
Well, it's not too surprising to me once you really think about it. Modi was an envious person. He was envious of his brother's special treatment, and more than likely he was envious of how his little sister was raised without the emotional and physical abuse. Seeing how Modi has no qualms with picking children to receive his fury, he has more than likely chosen to place his frustration of his position in the family onto his much younger sister, leading to Thrud saying they are better without them. But even though she says that, and for probably good reasons, she still has a moment of pause when looking at his shield. A moment of remembrance of her brother, the good and the bad. Thrud, unlike the rest of her family, has empathy and probably seen how Modi is treated in the family. She probably feels bad for how her brother could never meet her father's expectations. She probably understood that Modi is the black sheep of the family and can see that he is compensating for not being treated as one of the family. Or maybe I'm giving too much credit to a teenager for her ability to empathize, but either way, that moment of pause displays a more complex relationship between the two. These complicated feelings seem to be only for Modi, since Magni would not have a real reason to bully his younger sister, but I would assume, based on educated guesses, that she thought Magni's behavior was deplorable as well. Magni was arrogant and cruel due to his father's teachings, leading him to terrorize the realms. Since Thrud does believe in protecting the innocent, his actions will cause a conflict with her ideals, leading her to develop contempt for his behavior. Although information on Thrud's relationship with her brothers is minimal, we can still see through the stories of their upbringing and her reaction to their deaths that her relationship with them was a complex one.
Hey, which sibling trio y'all think had the most amount of issues? The Thunder Trio or the Lannisters?
Unequivocally, the Lannisters. They were having ancestral relations.
Yeah, I don't know why I asked that. They want some Sword Art Online stuff, bro.
Yeah, definitely the Lannisters. They try to kill each other at some point, but I digress. As much as Magni and Modi impacted her life when they were alive, their deaths were even more crucial to her development. As mentioned earlier, the deaths of Magni and Modi caused a shift in Thor and Sif's parenting style. Sif became a concerned mother for her child. She learned from her lesson of letting Odin do to her boys that he's done to Thor, exploit them for his own gain without any consideration for their well-being. Sif, a former warrior herself, was so scared by the death of her boys that she would not allow her daughter to become a Valkyrie. This will cause tension between the two, with Thrud saying she hates her mother for denying her dream. Thrud finds this hypocritical because Sif was a warrior herself, and by the time Magni and Modi was around her age, they were warriors of Asgard as well. This tension between mother and daughter is one built on protection from a mother. Sif doesn't want her to become a Valkyrie, not because it's unfitting of a young lady, but because she doesn't want Odin to manipulate her dream for his own gain. Thrud doesn't know the manipulative nature of her grandfather yet, like her parents do. She still believes in the Allfather, so she would be the perfect prey for Odin to sink his teeth in for his little games. The death of Sif's sons woke her up, and she was going to protect her little girl, even if that meant she would be hated in the process. Even though we as the players understand Sif, Thrud, who is still a child, just sees an overprotective mother trying to stop her child from living the way that she wants to. But one parent was a little softer on her, allowing her to be trained with the sword. That parent was sweeter on his little girl, showing a more tender side. You see, like Sif, Thor was changed by his son's death and would stop drinking. Well, with a few relapses, but he is definitely more sober than he ever was when Magni and Modi was alive. Thrud would get to see her true father of sound mind, not clouded in a drunken stupor. Thor was more present with Thrud, causing them to have a sweet daddy-daughter relationship. You can tell how much she cares for her father. When he relapsed after Odin triggered him, she would give him a scolding for breaking his promise to not drink. She is less angry but more disappointed because she believes in her dad. She believes he can be better, something that he doesn't believe in himself, and anyone who has ever dealt with a family member with an addiction problem would know how painful it is to fight for someone who is struggling to fight for themselves. Thrud's love for her father keeps her fighting even if he cannot, but by the end of the game, after a long battle with Kratos, he realizes he can be better. His parental failures of his sons, the regret of beating Modi to a defenseless guppy, and his love for Thrud pushes him to go against his father. This leads to Odin killing Thor, with Thrud watching her father's last breaths. The father who finally overcame Odin's control fades into the light. Even though Thrud witnessed her father's tragic end, she, unlike her brothers, got to see the man who loved for his child brought him to be better. Thrud has lost her brothers and father, but she still has her mother, who by the end of the game fully supports Thrud's wishes to be a Valkyrie, especially since there's no more Odin to manipulate her. The children of Thor have a tragic story, but they have a survivor in Thrud that has broken the cycle of trauma her grandfather started. She will be the protector god that her siblings could have been if their parents gave them the same love that Thrud received. This brings me to why we should raise children with compassion, regardless of gender. I know Thrud being a girl isn't the main reason she was raised differently, but it does play a factor, and especially in our society. Society promotes raising boys to not display emotions, while the girls are allowed to express all of the emotions that humans experience. This stifles boys from being able to convey how they properly feel, leaving them to become emotionally inept. This leads boys to only express anger when they are sad or depressed, because anger or happiness are the few emotions they were allowed to express. This is what happened to Magni and Modi. Magni and Modi were called stupid many times in the game, but I don't think they were actually stupid. I just believe they were raised to follow orders and not express themselves. Odin did not want thinkers who felt all of the emotional spectrum. That's not what makes a good soldier. He needs you to be angry and sadistic. An emotionally aware person would not be able to do his bidding. Just like Magni and Modi, we are sending little boys to their demise if we don't give proper love and compassion when raising them. Thrud did not have a better outcome because she's a girl, but because she actually had parents that took their time to raise her with love and not just punishment. We can learn a lot from this family, from seeing what neglecting one child while putting another on a pedestal can do to the psyche of the children, to how trauma is passed down through the generations, creating more chaos and destruction in the lives of others. But the biggest lesson I hope one can get from this tragic tale is that showing love and compassion to your children over this traumatic response of corporal punishment will produce more well-adjusted human beings. Children are products of how they were raised, and if these siblings have shown us anything, is that multiple siblings can grow up in the same house, same parents, and have completely different childhoods. For all those who made it to the end of the video, thank you. Hopefully you were able to be entertained by my deep analysis of Thor's children. Even though they played a small part in the game, they ended up making a major impact on me. Well, at least enough to do this video. Again, thank y'all for watching, and if you feel that I missed anything, please leave a comment. If you enjoyed what I was saying, like the video and subscribe so you could catch new ones. Again, my name is Arrow, and this is my space. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.